Welcome to the All Rise podcast, Sunday Scaries. I'm your host, Christine, a civil litigator and personal mentor. Every Sunday, we'll tackle those dreaded Sunday Scaries together to demystify the practice of law and provide you with actionable tips and guidance to face your week ahead. So grab a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and join me while we turn those Sunday Scaries into stepping stones towards your success. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of All Rise Mentors, the Sunday Scaries. I'm your host, Christine Barker, a 20-year civil litigator, managing partner of a national law firm, and your personal mentor. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I realized that I haven't really told you a whole lot about myself and why I'm even doing this. So I thought I would take you on just a little Sunday Scaries trip of my own, and the things that terrified me and why I decided to start All Rise. So, I've been practicing law now for 20 years, all civil litigation, and I started off really not having much direction on where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I kind of got into law a little, differently. I didn't set out wanting to go to law school. In fact, I had no idea that I actually even was going to go to law school. I was terrified of public speaking. So even the idea of, arguing and trying cases absolutely terrified me. But I figured I could either just be a really good writer, which I was good at, and I am a good writer, and I could just win on moving papers. I also thought maybe I could go into like transactional work where, I didn't have to be in a courtroom. And then for a hot minute, I thought I might want to go into politics. Thank God I didn't do that. So when I got out of law school, I really was in kind of I was in a financial position because I had taken out a bunch of student loans. I had to find a job quickly to pay those back. The idea of going to like the district attorney's office really wasn't going to be an option for me because I needed to make money. And I knew private practice was, my best option of getting a job and, my best option of making money. And so I interviewed at a few different places and found this one law firm that I was there for about 3 years and loved it. It was one of my favorite firms that I worked at. I'm still really close friends with many of the people there. It's one of my tips and tricks on marketing, which we'll discuss later. But so I started practicing, and right away, that impostor syndrome it hit me hard. Like, I was like, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing. You didn't even know that you wanted to go to law school. You're kind of faking it right now. And I felt like any minute now, someone was going to find me out. My boss was going to find out. My clients were going to find out. The people at the office were going to find out. Somebody was going to find out that I was just faking it as a lawyer, that I didn't really know what I was doing. And it's true, I didn't know what I was doing. But what I didn't realize is that a lot of people felt that way. Coming out of law school, it's not uncommon. Coming into any profession, it's really not uncommon for people to struggle with imposter syndrome. But I didn't want to tell anybody. I certainly didn't want to tell my boss. I didn't want to tell, any of my coworkers because I was over there, faking it till I made it. The people I did confide in were my friends, people from law school that, we had just gone through 3 years of, living hell together. So I was comfortable talking to them, but they were in the same boat I was in. They were feeling like imposters. They really couldn't give me much guidance or advice or mentorship. We were just kind of like the blind leading the blind. And, along the way, I did find mentors of my own, whether they knew they were being mentors or not. I would, try and emulate certain attorneys. If I would go to, when I would go for, to court, and I would go for like a status conference or oral argument or something, I would get there early. I would listen to all of the cases before mine. I'd usually stay afterwards, just sitting in the audience, and I would listen to how other attorneys presented themselves, how they argued, how they addressed the court, how they addressed one another. And I used that as fuel and kind of just how I was starting to craft the way I was going to practice law. And I after I left that first firm, I went to another law firm, and I hated it there. It was absolutely awful. I was there for another 3 years, and actually wound up getting fired from that firm. And after that happened, I kind of thought, maybe I don't want to practice law. Like, maybe this was just a stupid idea, Christine. Like, you were never cut out to do this. You've wasted 6 years of your life. You're $100,000 in debt. And this was the most expensive, dumbest mistake you've ever made. And I'm sitting at home and, doing contract work, just kind of pick up work for anybody who will hire me. I kind of opened up the law offices of and got my own legal malpractice insurance through the California State Bar, and tried to just kind of find myself and figure out what I was doing. And it was during that time that I did start reaching out to people, like basically asking them to mentor me, asking questions, asking, how did you do it? How did you know this is what you wanted to do? I bought books on 101 things you can do with a law degree that's not practicing law. And I really explored different options. After bouncing around to a couple of different firms, I finally landed at my current firm, and I love this place. I can't say enough nice things about the atmosphere, the people, the management. I love my firm. I'll retire here for sure. But I got this job as a part-time contract attorney. And prior to losing my job at the firm before, I had never done part-time contract work for anything. I had always had a full-time job. Since I was 15 years old and got a work permit, I worked as many hours as I possibly could. The only time I didn't work was during law school, hence the $100,000 in debt. But I knew I liked this firm. I'd heard really good things about them. And the woman who had hired me really was into mentorship. She really was into, kind of showing you the ropes, pulling the curtain back and like, hey, this is what goes on behind the scenes. And to this day, she's still a solid mentor for me. I speak with her often. We've done fun kind of social things together. We wrote a book together just for fun. But it was then that I kind of had this spark of, I want to do this for other people. It was awful feeling like I didn't belong, that this wasn't a fraternity that I was supposed to be a part of, that I was the impostor, that everybody else knew what they were doing, and I didn't. And once she kind of pulled the veil back for me and said, hey, look, this is how we all feel. I got to thinking, I was like, you know what, I want to do this for other people. And so I picked up a little journal. I stuck it around here somewhere. I picked up a little journal. It said, She Moves Mountains. And I just started writing down ideas, things that I wish somebody would have taught me early on. And it's not like the firms I was working at or the partners that I was working for didn't try and show me and mentor me in their own way. But I do think it is difficult for, full-time partners, full-time attorneys to, kind of take a step back, reach back and give that patience and that guidance, because we're all busy. The partners I worked for were trial attorneys. They were constantly in trial, which totally intimidated me and was like, I never could possibly do what they do. And yet here I am doing it. So I really just kind of sat down and started writing out ideas. And I wish I would have dated the very first page. I didn't. But if I look through a couple of pages, and I'm pretty sure it was all probably in the same time period. It was May 7th, 2021, when I came up with this idea. And it was, it started off being life coaching, and it was life coaching targeted towards women attorneys. And I wrote down, ideas for podcasts, ideas for blog posts. And then I wrote down steps I need to take to make this happen. And gosh, I might messed up here. I found this actually yesterday when I was meeting with my assistant Abigail, who's amazing. And I noticed that I'd had 6 things on here that I thought that I needed to do in order to make this happen. And number 1 was I needed to research life coach schools. I needed to decide on one. I needed to get certified. I needed to build a website. I needed to start a blog or a podcast. And then I needed to start marketing. And I noticed that I had crossed off 5. I don't know if you can see it, but I had crossed off the first 5. And that really felt amazing yesterday, thinking that this is something that really scared me, because it's vulnerable putting yourself out there. It's vulnerable to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Who knows? Opposing counsel could find this podcast somewhere and use this against me. But for me, it was more important that I reach out to, the Christine Bouldings, that was my maiden name, the Christine Bouldings of the world, who were just coming out of law school thinking, I don't belong here. That's what I did this for. I wish somebody would have pulled me aside then and explained all of this to me. And I wanted to do that for the new attorneys coming out now, or the attorneys, struggling during their practice, during their career. Like I said, when I was 6 years in, I was like, I'm out of here. This is not for me. And I wanted to mentor those women and tell them, look, it is for you. And the other thing that my mentor Rosemary really instilled in me was, you can do this differently. You don't have to practice law the way that everybody else does. You don't have to practice law the way that I do. You don't have to practice law the way that your former partners did. You get to practice law the best way that you know how. And as soon as I realized that, as soon as I figured that out, that I didn't have to emulate her, I didn't have to emulate the partners that I had worked for before, I didn't even have to emulate the ones that I saw in court that I thought were doing an amazing job, that I got to do this the exact way that was right for me, right for my clients, and where I felt like I was being authentic and I was being real. And once I got there, the practice of law came a lot easier for me, and it can for you too. So a little bit of my story and the birth of All Rise Mentors. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this episode or you like this content, please do give me a like, a thumbs up, a review would be awesome. Please do follow us. Check out the website. We've got our new attorney training that is open for pre-registration right now. You can head on over to allrisementors.com and check it out. And thanks so much for joining us. Have a great Sunday.